Hi folks, this is Donald. Lately I feel like I've been in a bit of a sketching rut, not really knowing what sort of subjects I wanted to be drawing, and I was feeling like my recent sketches were a bit uninspired and not really turning out all that great. If you ever feel like that, then hopefully this video will help, because I want to share with you a bit of a breakthrough I've had in my sketching development this week, sketching this highly complex scene of the L train in Chicago. First of all, I need to apologise though, because as you can see, this sketch is already underway. Unfortunately, the start of the sketch didn't record. I thought I'd press record, but obviously not. Oops. Luckily I noticed before I got too far in. I'm sure there isn't a YouTube creator in the land who hasn't done that at some point or another. Lesson learned. You probably only missed about 30 seconds of time-lapse footage though, and all you missed was me drawing the wires across the scene, then the pillar on the left, and then I drew in some of the first parts of the underside of the elevated railway line. So that's where we'll pick up from. So yeah, I was looking at my sketches that I did a year ago and wondering why they were so much better than the stuff I'm doing now. When I looked at my recent sketches, it felt to me like I was playing it safe. I was choosing relatively easy scenes, and I realised that if I want to keep improving, I have to start challenging myself, get out of my comfort zone and try drawing highly complex scenes that I previously would have shied away from. This inner city scene in Chicago is a perfect example of the sort of thing I would have avoided, and I know this because this is one of the first photos that I saved as a goal when I started sketching, thinking one day I want to be able to draw that scene, because it's so complicated, there's so much going on, and I just wouldn't even have known where to begin. But really, this is the sort of stuff I was aiming to eventually be able to draw. I wanted to be able to get to the level where I can draw highly complex scenes with confidence and not feel like that's beyond the level that I'm at. And it's funny because this turned out so much better than I was expecting it to turn out, and that's despite the fact that it came at a time when I was thinking my drawing is kind of not as good as it was, and I'm a bit stuck. It's not like I've been in a spell where I've had real momentum and lots of brilliant sketches one after the other. This has been a period where things have not been going that brilliantly, and it just feels like this came out of nowhere. And I think the really good lesson to take from that is that if, again, in future I find myself at a point where I'm struggling a bit and I'm finding it difficult, things are just not going to plan, then that's the time when I need to push myself again to draw even more difficult scenes and be more ambitious, because it was only through getting into that bit of a rut that I have now come out of it, and I'm drawing this scene, and I don't know whether it'll be a one-off, maybe it will be, but I hope not, and I'm going to keep trying to draw like this, because this is the sort of stuff that excites me. This is the sort of drawing that makes me look at it and think, did I draw that? Because that doesn't seem like something I would have drawn. And that's really where the lesson of persistence comes in, where you just need to keep going through the difficult periods when things are not going well, because you know that if you keep going and keep practicing, that eventually it will click. And this feels like a click moment for me. This is sort of the scenes that I want to be drawing from now on. And the sketching style that I'm using is very slightly different to the way I've been drawing of late. It's still my sketching style, but it's not as self-consciously wonky and wobbly as it was. This scene was more naturally wobbly, and I like that. I think that's maybe less contrived. I'm not forcing the wonkiness. I've just let it be naturally wonky and wobbly, and the lines are not straight because I don't tend to draw straight lines, but there is character in there, in the wobbly lines that are just naturally wobbly. So I think maybe that's the way I'm going to go now, but we'll see. Maybe this will just be a total one-off and I'll not be able to replicate it in other scenes. I also want to give a big thank you and shout out to the people who have supported me on Buy Me a Coffee. If you're not aware, a few weeks ago I did start up a Buy Me a Coffee page, and people have been supporting the channel. It has made a massive difference to me, and I'm so grateful. So to the following people who have signed up as monthly members, thank you so much. To Kate, Amy, Anna and Cheryl, thank you so much. Your support means the world. And to supporters who have given one-off coffees, thank you so much to Sue, Tim, Patty, Monica and Debjani, who have all supported the channel in that way. It makes a massive difference to me being able to continue this channel, and it's been a really positive thing for me to have people not just turning up and watching the videos and commenting, but actually saying I want to invest in supporting this channel and keeping it going. It really is incredible to me that people actually want to pay to watch this stuff, but I'm really glad that you are finding it useful. And if you're not a supporter already and would like to join in, you can head over to buymeacoffee.com/urbansketchy. Interestingly, one of the things I did in this sketch that I haven't done for some time is use a pencil first to plan out my sketch, like a rectangle for where the train was going to go and a few loose lines for the shapes of the buildings in the background, just so I could roughly plot out where things were going to go. And I found that so helpful. Even though lately I've just been drawing freehand, I've not been bothering with the pencil planning. But for something like this, it was so complex. I thought I need to know where things are going to go. Things like the wires at the start, I needed to know where they were going to go. So I needed to know where the railway bridge was going to be, where the train was going to be. I think I am going to go back to loose pencil planning at the start of my sketches because I found that incredibly helpful. I'm sketching with my trusty Lamy Safari fountain pen, and that is filled with Diatramentus document ink. And surprisingly, I've had this pen for months now, and I've never once cleaned it out, and it hasn't clogged at all. And one of the things that put me off the idea of getting into fountain pens is that I would have to keep cleaning it out, and I just can't be bothered with that. So clearly I haven't cleaned it out once since I bought it, and it hasn't clogged. So I don't know if that is the pen or the ink. I suspect it's the ink. Diatramentus is a really good quality writing and drawing ink that is for fountain pens but doesn't clog, and I know a lot of inks that are permanent inks do tend to clog up fountain pens, so I would highly recommend this ink if you are in the market for an ink that goes into fountain pens that is permanent and waterproof. So you can, if you want to, put watercolour over the top. That's not something I'm too concerned about at the moment, but I do want to have an ink that is going to last and is not going to fade away. I should also say that the reason I wanted to draw this was because one of the places I've always wanted to visit is Chicago, and back in the day I used to watch ER, and in the story you'd see the doctors coming and going to work, and they would always go on the L train in Chicago. It's this raised train platform that goes right the way around the city, and I was making plans to go there, and then of course COVID happened, so I wasn't able to go, and then the whole financial situation has changed completely, so now it's very unlikely I will be going anytime soon, if ever. So I will have to just make do with drawing it from afar and imagining what it might have been like. My main reason for going though was just to try Chicago deep pan pizzas. And my parents recently bought an uni pizza oven. I don't know if you've ever heard of those. It's like a wood-fired pizza oven that you can have in the garden, and they make the most amazing pizzas. So I've been visiting pretty much every weekend and demanding that they fire up the pizza oven. So that's about as close to Chicago as I can get right now. It was at this point, once the buildings in the background had come into play, that was when I decided I'm not going to colour this in, I'm going to leave this as a line drawing because I was really liking the way it was looking. And even though you would think all the lines are just going to merge into each other, you can still distinguish the train from the background without having to add any colour. And I think this is the way I want to go now, is just drawing highly detailed complex scenes without any colour, at least for a while, and just really practice the drawing and keep trying to develop that and become better at the drawing side of things. And my aim is to try and draw scenes like this where it's right in the city and you're not really seeing the sky or the tops of buildings, and it's just rammed with detail. And you can see the underside of the train carriage. I wasn't sure what to do with that because I had no access to colour, so I just decided to do lots and lots of squiggles, and it looks like machinery and engine parts underneath. Here is the sketch in its finished state, and I've never done this before, but I realised, I could bring it closer and let you see the detail. You can see the amount of squiggles that I've put in the underside of the carriage, and it does look like railway parts, but it's just squiggles, and all the naturally wobbly lines rather than the contrived wobbly lines. And hopefully you will find this helpful just to see the progression that you can get from even where I was in the last video compared to this. It's like night and day. It's like a different person has drawn this compared to the sketch I did in the previous video, and it can happen as quickly as that. One day you're thinking this is not very good, and then the next you're like, oh hang on, I've got something here, right, I'm going to start drawing like this. And hopefully you will see this little progression as helpful to your own sketching development. So thanks for watching, and for more sketching inspiration like this, you can click on this video right here, and I will see you in the next one.